Welcome to the #1 spot health and wellness practitioners go to double their current income and turn their 10-hour work day into a 10-hour work week. Join us as we dive into the tips, tools, and tech you need to create a life and practice on your own terms. More freedom, flexibility, fulfillment, and of course, funds. It's time to build your online practice. And I'm your host, Michelle Rogers, also known as the Wealthy Woman. Be sure to subscribe for your weekly dose of education, inspiration, and action. Let's get started. Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us for another practitioner series. These things are so much fun for me because I get to connect with practitioners who have gone through the Wealth Mentorship. Some people are currently in it, and some people like Chloe are like alumni from like literally the first group. And I'm just so excited because I want to tell you guys all about like how Chloe actually helped the Wealth Mentorship happen in the first place. But just real quick, do you want to like just introduce yourself and let people know who you are?
Sure. Yeah, I'm so excited to be here. So humbled to be here. Like Michelle mentioned, I actually reached out to her on Instagram. I remember sending her a message. I was like, hey, I would love to consider being a client. And then we got on a call, which would have been like a sales call / getting to know each other call. And I asked her if she also does mentorship because I wanted to do what she does. And having a background in NLP is all about modeling success. So it's like this woman is leaving clues on success. How can I learn from her to eventually build out a virtual part of my practice, especially as an acupuncturist with a desire for freedom and desire for more travel to be a part of my regular kind of schedule. I knew I was going to be the person who treated 10 to like 20 people a day kind of thing. So I wanted to learn from her. So today I am a doctor of Chinese medicine, licensed acupuncturist, and master practitioner of NLP, mental emotional release, and hypnotherapy as well.
Damn. So good. I can't wait. We're going to get into like how Chloe's incorporating all of this into her practice soon enough. But yeah, like going back to that call, like we were on the phone and Chloe's like, I want to learn from you. And I was like, you know what? I've actually had it on my I don't forget what it was, like my 5-year plan or my 10-year plan to actually start a mentorship, because I've had so many practitioners, reach out to me wanting to learn functional lab analysis specifically. And then once I went virtual, a lot of practitioners were reaching out and being like, wait, what? How are you doing this? Because I started doing this like 4 years ago when it was like not very many people were doing it. And I did get a lot of flack or a lot of like kickback, I feel like, from my community, like the naturopathic community, like, how are you doing this? This isn't legal. What are like, da, 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 and like a lot of people just being mad. Now, 4 years later, I know that was just like their projection of fear onto me, right? But anywho, Chloe kind of put the fire under my ass to get this mentorship going. And I was like, okay, like give me a couple of days to think about this. I'm going to put something together, like a proposal or like an outline of what we could do. And I was like, if I could get like 6 practitioners to do this with us, like I'm down. And I think it was like within 48 hours, I had 6 practitioners who were ready to go. And I was like, okay, universe, well, I guess this is the next step. Like this is the next iteration, and the rest is history. Mentorship's been in place now for over 2 years. We've helped 70 practitioners like go through already, which is just like insane to think about. And so, yeah, I just want to thank you again, Chloe, for really opening up that door and like creating that expansion for me, because I would never be here. I would never be helping the practitioners, like helping to shift the paradigm of health and wellness and all of the things. So just thank you for, kicking me in the butt and helping me to create the impact that I always wanted to create. So thank you.
Absolutely. And thank you for going first. And thank you for going first. It means a ton because, like we've chatted about before, you did have a brick and mortar practice as well. So it wasn't just like starting in the online world. So that was something that helped build trust for me as a practitioner who did have a brick and mortar practice. And this was before everything also shut down too. So it was like, I know there is a way to do it. I just don't know how. So you were like living, walking, breathing proof of that, especially with having that background from brick and mortar too.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for pointing that out. It's true. 4 years primary care provider, insurance paradigm,
Yeah.
2 years private practice, private pay or whatever, still brick and mortar, and then entering the online space for the past, like, I think like 4 years now. So yeah, it's been a transition. And I always tell people jokingly, I'm like, please don't do it the way that I did it. The way that I did it is not the way to do it. But that's why I help people make the transition much easier now. But so tell me what life was like. I know you were like in school. I think you were in your doctorate program when you started the Wealth Mentorship. So what were things like
Yeah.
before, and what were the things? I know you mentioned like the like freedom, there's the like the flexibility. Like what was the thing that really pushed you to want to go into the virtual space even before everything closed down? Like you were ahead of the game. So what was
Yeah.
that? Yeah.
So 2019 was the year that I launched my private practice in Santa Monica. So at the time I was in Santa Monica, I was finishing up my doctorate in my last year of that. So I was taking classes online. I also was in a community, still I'm in a community where a lot of my friends are coaches, and all of their work, all of their consults, all of their sessions are online. And so I thought about like, what would it always thought about? I even have like a vision plan, 3, 5, 10 year vision plan that I wrote in 2019 for one of my business classes in acupuncture school. And it was a desire to have coaching clients that were online. So I was like, well, maybe at least I'll do coaching online. And then when I got to come across you, I was like, oh, wait, there's a way to practice online as well. And I had already been interested in functional testing because for me, I mean, I went through the 4 years of graduate school for Chinese medicine, similar to yourself as well. And so I love the conversations about meridians, qi, energy, the organ systems, and how they all interact. And I wanted to also gather more evidence about the physiology and the biochemistry. So not only did we chat about like your virtual practice, it was also about functional testing. So then it was like, oh, well, I could do all the functional testing online, and then acupuncture could be like actually supplementary, not so much the core part of my practice, which was an interruption to everything. Well, most of the things I would say that I was talked about with in school, in graduate school. So I had a desire to travel more. I had a desire to live life outside the office, outside the clinic. I had a desire to go deeper with my clients versus kind of see them once a week, and be a little bit more surface level. Not to say that either way is right or wrong. It's just what lights me up. And if there's anything I've really honed in on in the last couple of years, especially, it's like compass goes to joy over and over again because I won't be led astray in that way. So as far as where I was in school, I was in my private practice, only working with people in person, acupuncture, cupping, light therapy, all those kind of things. And had this desire that had been planted in my mind probably back in 2016 when I first started meeting coaches and what they were doing. And so Michelle was like an example of what was possible. So I asked her, and then she shared the proposal. I was like, yes, yes, yes. It was like the business, and it was also the personal development as well. I'm sure you've talked about that with other practitioners as well, but it wasn't only about business, because especially as entrepreneurs, how we grow ourselves is how we grow our business. So I really appreciate it that that was woven in to the mentorship.
Such a good piece and such an unexpected piece. Like, I think that's everybody's always like, that was an unexpected surprise,
Yeah.
but like such a huge, I feel like, pivoting piece of what really brings everything together. It's kind of like the glue, I feel like, of the whole mentorship. And I also feel like it's why we get such badass practitioners in the mentorship, because like energetically, they're just drawn into this container, and then they're like, whoa, okay, like not only are we, taking our business to the next level, lifestyle, clarity, confidence, all this stuff, but like really this personal up leveling, like addressing so many of those limiting beliefs and those obstacles and the ways that we get in our own way. And like, yes, huge.
Yeah, huge.
It's all related. It's all related. Like, you cannot work on one without the other. I feel like that's actually a really perfect example of like the conventional medical model, right? You have these
Mm-hmm.
specialists who are like, let's only look at this one area of the body and basically dismiss all this other stuff. And
Yep.
so it's almost like, this mentorship is a more holistic approach, basically. That's how I kind of view it. But so, question for you.
Mm-hmm.
What do you feel like throughout the process of the mentorship, what do you feel like it really helped you to develop, to gain, to shift? Like, what were those tangible or intangible things that it really helped you with? I know we're like thinking back like a year and a half now, right?
So what's so cool is that I mentioned at the beginning of our conversation about modeling success. So what comes to mind is the phrase collapsing timelines. So I got to learn what to do and also what not to do. I got to save so much time vetting different lab companies and their individual labs, cross-referencing the same labs with different companies, all that kinds of stuff. So there was a huge collapsing of time for the nitty-gritty stuff. Even when it comes to how to think, which I think is invaluable when one finds a mentor, right? It's cool to see like from the outside looking in, like what they're doing, but to have the curtains pulled back within the mentorship to go over the case studies, that was phenomenal because it was like we were in school again, where we had the clinical rounds and the experience of talking about real people, not textbooks, and how we are actually not only gaining knowledge, but also the skills to then therefore apply into our practice. So in essence, it was a lot of knowledge, it was a lot of skills, and it was also community. Community is something that I definitely want to emphasize that you kind of already alluded to, that the badassery that's within the group. I still keep in touch with people from like the first rounds, like Sarah, who's phenomenal. And we both mentioned like how grateful we are to be in the positions that we are now because we took that leap back in 2019, lifetimes ago, seriously, lifetimes ago. So it was definitely a leveraging of time, a leveraging of resources, even some of the little things like the how to. My clients love, for example, that I loom or I screen record the lab results so they could pause and play and watch it with their partners too. I remember a client of mine, she shared with me when we got on the console after she checked out all the videos that she actually cried with her partner because she was like, oh my gosh, we finally have answers. And so I feel like that wouldn't have been like as readily cultivated within our session together. So by her being able to watch that with her partner, he was so excited for her too, because they had been to, the different specialists all around, and they were like, oh wow, like really come back to foundations. And like he got that kind of stuff. So the how to think, collapsing timelines, the community, and definitely the skill shares, not only from you yourself, but also some of the veteran practitioners. Someone who was in private practice in their first year, I learned a ton. And I always appreciate learning from others who have had more experience than me. It's kind of like in sports when we would play against better teams and then we up level our game kind of thing.
Yeah, I love that. And that also is kind of related to the collapsing timelines too, right? It's like, oh shit, like I can do this and that's like way more efficient or way quicker or just like creates a way better client experience or whatever it might be because you get all these different perspectives. And that's another thing I really love about the mentorship is how there's people from all different backgrounds and modalities. And so we really get to blast open our ideas of what is possible and like how to approach things. And so, we've got nurse practitioners, nutritionists, acupuncture, naturopath, like now we've got physical therapists and osteopathic doctors and like, yeah, it's just like so many cool perspectives and people who are really like opening up and blasting open just different perspectives. And I think it's so cool that we get to just talk about that and respect each other and like learn from each other. And I don't know, it's so freaking cool.
It
Amazing.
is. It really is.
So let's dive in. Like, what is life for you like now? What does your practice look like? I'm really excited to I have Chloe update me too, because it's been a little while since we've talked. So I'm super excited to know just like where are you at? Where is your practice at now? What does it look like? What does your lifestyle look like? Like, what is the day in the life of Chloe?
Yeah, oh my goodness. It's been lifetimes, Michelle. And I'm very, very grateful to be exactly where I am right now. Really excited about where I'm going as well. Since, see, it was June of last year, 2021, I finally got to take a training and certification that I had been waiting about 5 years to take, which was the Master Practitioner of NLP, Mental Emotional Release, and Hypnotherapy. NLP is something that I got introduced to back in 2017 by Dr. Matt James. And it was an experience where from a 4-day training on day one, I was sitting in my seat, and I told the story this weekend because I was assisting for an NLP training about how I almost quit acupuncture school with 2 semesters left. I was so enamored with the content. I felt a resonance, almost like it felt like a home. I felt on purpose. I knew I was meant to be there, that kind of thing. And thank goodness my parents were like, get your license. You have 2 more semesters. Just get your license. The training will be there after you graduate. And so I listened to them. And then it turns out that on my last day of my master's program, I actually enrolled in getting my doctorate. So that added a couple more years onto pushing back master prac training. So as soon as it happened, it was, of course, in perfect timing because I was already working with clients online. So I was able to implement these tools and these tactics in a way that only improved the results that I was getting. And so what that looks like for me nowadays is I still work with clients at a foundational level of at least 6 months. They do have options after that to continue working at a like one-off consult basis, or maybe adding 3 or 6 months, depending on where they're at the end of the 6 months. And then many of them have also done annual testing to check in what's the latest, where can I refine things based on the progress and the foundation that we created in the initial 6 months. I joke with a lot of my clients that the 6 months is kind of like going to a university, all based on a curriculum that is you, because it is really rooted in helping them to feel more connected to themselves, their bodies, their needs, and how to go about filling their own cup up so they can pour into the people around them. So while most of my clients are virtual, I do have a couple of clients who either flew into San Diego. I'm in San Diego. I practice in Solana Beach to see me for acupuncture or to do something called a breakthrough session. So every client now since July of 2021 of last year, they all start with a breakthrough session. So essentially it's, if you can imagine, like a 3-day intensive where there's definitely no 15-minute doctor's appointments. We actually spend about 2 to 3 hours unraveling everything related to what is present. We're looking for patterns. We're getting down to the root cause at a conscious level. And the next day is really cool because then we start working with the unconscious using things like NLP, mental emotional release, which is a brief form of timeline therapy that's been highly researched. And there's a really cool book I always have my clients read beforehand that helps them to get in rapport or get more connected to the process, reminding them that it is an unconscious process and it has 100% success rate with alleviating, as I tongue twist this, alleviating symptoms of depression. And that really tied into my why as far as overcoming symptoms of depression, adrenal fatigue way back in the day, which was the catalyst for me going through acupuncture school. So essentially it's these 3 days intensive. If they come to San Diego, we get to do esoteric acupuncture to recalibrate the nervous system after so much release work. And we might do some cupping depending on their needs, maybe some light therapy. And the next day is really tapping into their why and also creating clarity on their values, which is phenomenal. And it's been the biggest shift in the way that I work with clients too, because if you're probably already familiar, values are our deepest level of programming. So are the values lined up with the results that they are desiring to create? If not, there's some kind of behavior that's working out at an unconscious level based on this unconscious programming. So that's where we leverage NLP, hypnotherapy. So these really cool techniques to help them modify their values so they are congruent, therefore creating congruent behavior and then the results that they're wishing to achieve. So it's truly transforming the way that health is experienced. That's the vision.
Amazing. That sounds so, so, so cool. Are you open to sharing that book that you recommend?
Yeah, so that's Mental Emotional Release by Dr. Matt James. Every single client has to read the first 4 chapters before we start working together.
It's personal health. So cool.
Yep, all the science is in there. It's super duper cool. It actually took 3 years to publish because they were like, wait, are you sure all of this is true? They were cross-referencing everything. So really, really awesome.
Wow. I bet there's some practitioners who are going to watch this and be like, I need that book. Or I want to learn more about that. That is so cool. That's so amazing. So you do this breakthrough session and then you have them in a 6-month container.
Yeah. So they send in their labs afterwards, which is super duper cool. And what's been neat is to really be able to offer a comprehensive solution, a comprehensive experience where it is the mental emotional work and it is also addressing physiology and biochemistry, because it's not one without the other. It's really how can we support someone with both, because they are an entirely whole person already. And I like to say they're not sick, diseased, anything like that. It's just where are they on the spectrum of health and how can we get them to that next level. So that's where the labs come in, and that's where everything from the mentorship has been so critical. And even the systems, I know we joked a ton in the mentorship, like systems are so sexy and I love them. So everything from like standard operating procedures, I so appreciate learning from like not only you, but the other practitioners, like, whoa, you automated this. This is so cool. Or, okay, this is how you set up your midpoint check-ins, your endpoint feedback. And clients have mentioned that it's really helpful to have things like the body systems questionnaire, because it gives them a chance to say like, whoa, like I'm doing a lot better than I thought. Whoa, I improved this much. It's like awesome to have that objective like data in addition to the testing.
Yes. Totally. I love that you said that. I'm curious. I mean, I kind of know the answer, but I mean, what does it feel like now that you're super aligned? It sounds like you're working with your dream ideal clients. I mean, how does it feel? Do you feel fulfilled? Do you feel exhausted? Do you feel depleted? Do you feel stretched thin? What does it feel like to be running this practice that sounds, it sounds really in depth, like it sounds really involved, but like, tell us.
It feels so damn good. I'm in awe of the path that has led me to today. It's been phenomenal to reflect on. Even I met someone who just graduated naturopathic school yesterday at the training this weekend in San Diego. So I told her about this mentorship. She was like, how are you working with clients? I think like she wanted to do something different. I was like, go for it, own it. Like, there's always a potential to do what you love in the way that you want to do it.
Yeah.
And finding your models of excellence is a huge part of that. So I feel very, very grateful. I am living just 10 minutes from a beautiful place called Sunset Cliffs. And it's been amazing to catch the sunset more often and to I have it in my Google Calendar, like blocked off, like go see sunset, so that when I'm scheduling things, it's like, okay, if I schedule an acupuncture client, am I going to miss sunset kind of thing, or that kind of thing. So very, very grateful for the schedule. For most of my calls don't start until 10 a.m. or 11 a.m. And if I'm working on the weekends, it's something that I enjoy doing. I'm diving into labs today. This is a perfect like break from my little creative cocoon or focus cocoon. And it's really, really amazing to have found the nice, I would say, harmony between career, life, relationships. And I'm definitely not perfect with it. I'm going into, I guess, what would be year 3 of business. And I do believe that I have collapsed timelines in the way that this might have been like year 5 if I was still going the other route of building out my in-person practice and trying to figure out and learn like labs by myself, figure out and learn implementing the labs as well, and also communicating the value of them in a way that offers, I would say, congruency and enrollment into the process of like, you are more than the labs as well. And there's also this things we want to give attention to. And like, sure, this means this, and it's a snapshot. It's giving us more information to therefore validate what you already intuitively know. So it's been amazing. Definitely have learned some lessons about how many clients I like working with at a time, where it doesn't compromise the other areas of life, because it's kind of like it's the bittersweetness as far as like a few months, my business blew up, and then I was working with up to 9 clients, and I was like, oh, this is a little bit too much for me. Some people could do it. I remember Christina was like, I'm doing 17. I'm like, holy fuck, yeah. Like, that's awesome, but that's also not me. And so right now, my sweet spot is actually going to be about 4 to 6. And I thought it was going to be 7 to 9. And it was cool to see that 9s, I could, but other things in life were getting sacrificed. So 4 to 6 is going to be a sweet spot. And it feels really good to also have the community of practitioners to refer others to, so that everyone does have access to this kind of personalized care. I actually just put out a survey on my Instagram, like, what was the difference? Current and past clients, feel free to answer too. And one of my past clients mentioned the personal touch, the level of care.
Yeah, I love that. And so when you're saying the amount of clients that you're seeing, is that per month, or is that total at one time?
At one time, yeah.
Very cool. Yeah. And what percentage would you say is your practice online now versus in person?
I would say about 90% is online now. I have one acupuncture client in person right now, and she's probably going to shift into the online program, which is super cool. And I'm also not rushing it. I'm really, really grateful to be in a place where it's not a matter of like, oh my goodness, I need to sign this many clients, because of learning about things too, like profit first method. We're good. Like, I plan on taking at least 6 weeks from July to middle of August, not totally off, but kind of offline, to complete another training, which I'm super excited about. So it's really, really neat where I could build my business around that and also communicate with clients. I have a potential new client who might start later this month, and I let her know, like, I added on a month of voice and text only support, so that when we aren't doing consults during that time, she's still supported. We're still in momentum. And it's a value add versus like, oh, I'm so sorry, like, I'm gonna take the same off. It's like, no, like, we're gonna up level on the other side of this, and you can come with me right now, or we can chat about doing this later.
I love that. That's so cool. And I just want to emphasize what you're saying about, like, you're not in that state of like urgency and scarcity where you're like, I need to sign this client, like, I need to make like ends meet, like this strategy, or this like way of creating a practice is not only like you're in line with what you're doing, but also how you're doing it, and also like financially taken care of. So it's like, and you get to provide better service for your clients. It's literally like a win, like across the board. Like, it's just like such a beautiful, beautiful setup. Yeah, that's what I want to say.
And I'm so grateful for it, because it definitely was not that way when I first started my private practice. And pretty much 3 years ago, to this month, almost to this month, next month technically. And I remember crying every like first of the month, because I was like, oh shit, I have 3 appointments on my schedule. I have rent, not only my own rent, but the acupuncture office rent. How the hell am I going to do this? So I lived in that state of fight or flight. I lived in that state of like, oh like, what am I doing? Like, renting by the hour because I was too afraid to go all in on like by the day, which actually didn't make sense when I look back, as far as the hourly rates go. And thank goodness for the virtual practice, because I don't think we touched on it, but the timing of it all, because we started the first cohort in 2019. I think it was October,
Yeah.
or November.
Yeah.
And then, so we're working on everything, solidifying all the foundations, which the mentorship does a great job at, making sure everything from the big vision is in mind. And then by the end of February, things were ready to go. I remember 3/3 as the day to launch the Ascended Alchemy method. And then a week later, like 10 days later or so, that's when everything shut down for 2 weeks. So
Right.
how divine was the timing with everything shutting down, which ended up being a lot longer. I actually shut down my acupuncture practice for 3 months at that time. However, my income was replaced due to 2 clients signing on when I launched my virtual practice, my virtual program. So that was
amazing.
saving grace for sure.
So amazing. Yeah. Wow. And I love to just like kind of going back to that scarcity urgency thing. I think as practitioners who are, trying to compete's not the right word, but like, I don't know, maybe it's almost like competing for clients. Like it's almost like they have this air or a sense of needing to like convince a client to work with them, where it's like the programs that we're creating through this mentorship, they're so tailored to the person that we are wanting to attract into our practice, that it's not like someone sees the investment and they're like, oh, yeah, but this person's cheaper, so I'm just like going to go with that. Right? Like we're decommoditizing our programs and like what it means to be a health practitioner, because we're creating these programs that are so unique and so thoughtfully curated that people see them and they're like, I can't say no to this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is exactly what I need. Right. And it's like, as the practitioner, like you've experienced this now, like you've created it from pure alignment with yourself and your special sauce and your gifts and your talents and all of your things. So like your level of confidence in offering this package is just like so much higher too. Right. Because you 100% believe and like you're backing everything that you're like offering them. Right. Or whereas like other practitioners might be like, yeah, it's like this amount of money for my time. But then there's like this resentment that builds up because like they're not really like enjoying what they're doing. And then the client like doesn't follow through. And then there's just like all of this stickiness. Like as you were talking, I was like, oh yeah, I remember that stickiness. And what it sounds like now is like that stickiness just doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, thanks to a lot of internal work as well, which was great to have in the mentorship as well. And what came to mind too was a great reframe that one of the trainers this weekend shared, as far as she shared the story of how she ordered a couch that she was so excited for, and the movers come, and the extra cost to take the couch out of the moving truck, put it on a dolly, take it into her home was $175. She's like, yo, some of you guys are still charging $100 for your sessions. They put a box on a dolly and they didn't even unpack it. They just put it in my house for $175. Like, you need to raise your prices. That's a good reframe.
Wow. That is a really good reframe. That is a really good reframe. Yeah. Because like the stuff that we're doing with our clients, it's not only, transforming their lives, a lot of times saving lives, and the ripple effect that happens with partners, kids, family members, friends, like you can't even calculate that. Like it's so worth it. Yeah. I love that so much. Any other updates you want to share with us?
Mm-hmm. I think the other thing that comes to mind is now something else I'm excited and very grateful for is that now that I'm in this position, I am creating more time and space to finally work on like a 6 to 8 modules, still filling into it course that would be a way to also build out essentially almost like our sales funnel, offer something that gives value to those who are either ready to work one-on-one together, willing to work one-on-one together, or they kind of just want to solidify their foundations. They want to get a sense of where they are. So I'm very grateful that I have the time and space thanks to the business model that I've been able to create on that. And then the other excitement is the new opportunities that get to unfold. This last about a month ago, beginning of February, end of January, I actually got hired for a week. I got hired for a week as a acupuncturist and master practitioner of NLP to participate and co-facilitate a brain training intensive. So it was 5 days of neurofeedback and using acupuncture. I was supporting the men in essentially like restoring energy levels, brain function, and like a go time with acupuncture. On the last day, we did some timeline therapy, the mental emotional release as well, to further solidify a lot of the mental and emotional work that they were doing in between sessions and also during the brain training as well. And what was phenomenal is that I essentially got, I think it was a 2 week notice. It was like, hey, are you available? I would like to hire you for the week. I was like, I'm going to make it happen. And because I didn't have a freaking packed schedule of 20 clients to reschedule, I let my clients who are awesome, right? Because they are very cool people to even just like have sessions with. It's like, hey, I usually take the last week off from consults. I was like, instead of doing the last week off, I'm going to take the first week of February off. Let's do an extra one, extra consult at the end of January if you want. Otherwise, we could add another one at the end of February. Let me know what works for you. All of them were super flexible, excited for me. And I got to totally be there, present and focused without, sneaking in consults or like doing extra work. And I was so grateful for the flexibility. Yeah. They were like, this is so cool. I want to come. I was like, sorry, I didn't organize. I'm just here. Maybe next time. So that was amazing. It was super duper cool.
That is so cool. I love how you slipped into like, and I take the last week of the month off. So that's something, just for those of you who are watching, that is a very real thing. I can't remember now how long. I must have been doing it since the beginning of the mentorship, I guess. At least.
Yeah, something like that. And what was cool, because you did it even with the mentorship. So we got to see as participants that you were off screens but accessible through Slack. And because we weren't like, I don't know what the nitty gritties, whatever, like, oh my gosh, why is she here? It was like, no, this is cool because she's modeling a way that you can have both.
Yes. I love that. And that several practitioners have picked this up, and it's really cool. We basically don't take client calls the last week of the month, and it really creates kind of like a flex week. It allows like you to like do something that you need to do, something that like a hobby or maybe travel or something like that. But it can also be a time to reflect on the past month, perhaps like plan something for the next month, but it gives you that white space. And so many of us just don't have the white space, and that's why we feel so exhausted and like depleted and just like juggling all of the things, and you feel like a victim of time and all of this stuff, and then you realize like, oh, actually I'm in control of time, and actually I can block off my schedule, and actually like the world doesn't end if I don't show up.
Some of my clients actually adopted it too. So it was cool.
Yes. It's so powerful. It's so powerful. And I don't know. I remember when I first did that, I feel like that was one of the very first sort of signs of success. Like, wow, I did it. Like, I would never have been able to do this before. I never thought I was able to do that before or whatever. But yeah, I love that you integrate that now. It's powerful. It's so needed, just like restoration and just taking a step back, and
big time. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Anywho, anything else that you want to share or add about
I don't think so. Nothing really that's top of mind. Super, super grateful for the mentorship. Truly, it's opened up doors on doors on doors and really allowed me to not only create a foundation, but to build upon it while we were in the mentorship too. I think that's super duper cool. The opportunity to witness and like, I remember just being like, what? You really pulled back the veil on everything. So that was so helpful, and a type of generosity that, like you mentioned before, isn't always there. And what's cool is that I think it is changing. I like to say that it is changing because of more women who are going through the mentorship. I'm always happy to share, like the ND who I met this weekend. I was like, okay, like this is what I'm doing. She's like, whoa, thank you so much for sharing. I'm like, yeah, why not share? Like, of course.
Right? Like if the goal is to help people, it's like, why not? Like,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Sure. Yeah, for sure. I love that. Thanks for that reflection.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for hanging out with me and updating us on where you're at and what you're doing. I'm so freaking stoked and proud of you, and just like thank you again for pushing me to do this. Like it is, I joke around with some people. I'm like, I literally think I was strictly a practitioner for a decade just so that I can like teach and train and mentor other practitioners, like for that experience or for that clout or whatever, that reputation or whatever. It's like, I really feel like I went through that experience just so that I could provide this service to practitioners, because this is really like my passion and my purpose and what brings me so much freaking joy. And so, thank you.
I was just thinking right now about how great it is also to see you in your new element too. And you haven't done like a before and after photo. I don't know if people in this group have seen like where you were in 2019. Like it's so great to see like again in your glow and stuff. And I think of the colder like Washington mornings and like the scarf.
Seriously, totally. Yeah, dark and cold and like and now I'm just like, woo.
Yep.
The ocean's right here, jungle's right here, dogs right here.
Yes, absolutely.
Well,
so thanks for going first.
Thank you. Thanks for trusting me and for following through and like making it happen, doing the work, continuing to do the work. So you're a freaking phenomenal practitioner. So amazing. Well, have a beautiful rest of your day, and I'll send you a message in a little bit.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Take care. Yeah, thank you. Love you.
Love you too.
Bye.
All right, that's a wrap for today. If you want the exact breakdown of how I help practitioners go from their first 5K to consistent 50K months with just 2 offers, 10 hours per week, and an audience of less than 500 people, be sure to click the link in the podcast description or head to wealthywoman.co/breakdown. To make sure you don't miss an episode, be sure to subscribe. And for daily online practice insights, follow me on Instagram at wealthywoman.co. Let's create your life of wealth, full of abundance, purpose, health, wealth, and joy.